Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Nourish and Strengthen podcast. I am so excited about our guest today, not only because she is my very best friend and she is also our Moxie head coach, but I'm so excited to have Whitney Larsen here to talk to us about her story, how she, got into fitness, got into working in fitness, working for us here at Moxie. But how are you, Whit?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. Good. So excited to have you. So before we
Yeah.
jump in, why don't you just kind of tell us about your last week, how that's gone for you, a little
Oh,
snippet into your personal life.
yeah. We've been footballing here this last week,
Oh, yes,
and
you
it's
have.
it's silly, but that's really seriously what I've been doing for the last week, other than
Yeah.
working and doing normal day-to-day stuff. But
Yeah, because you're
Little
like
League
what, the
footballs,
treasurer?
yeah, the treasurer of the Little League.
Yeah.
But both my husband are on the board, and he coaches, so they've been trying out and picking teams, and uh we've been organizing things. They started this week, so it's
Yeah.
been wild, but it's
That's a
good.
lot. And Whit's
Yeah.
got three kids, two boys, one girl.
Yep.
So super
Yep.
crazy at your house.
Yep. Getting ready for school to start and all of that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So my biggest update is we got Caleb's flight plans, and if you don't know anything about having a missionary out, it's a really big deal when you get the flight plans because it's like finally you know that they're coming home and it feels real. And so we got those yesterday, and it was so exciting. So by the time this airs, he'll be coming home 1 week later. I'm so
When I
excited.
saw the flight plans, I had butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah,
So,
yes. So fun. So fun fact about Whitney and I is we actually went to high school together, and she was a year older than me, and tell them about our trip we did together.
our boat trip,
Yes,
or okay.
our sailboat trip.
So, Lindsay and I sang in the choir together,
Yeah, we were
and
choir nerds, as my
lest you
daughter
start
calls
to
it.
judge us, we were really good.
We actually really were.
We sang at Carnegie Hall, like we
Mm-hmm.
were legit. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we one year, it was my senior year, your junior year, right?
Yep. Yep.
And we got a gig on a cruise ship. It was a Carnival cruise ship, and we entertained the heck out of those
Oh, heck
passengers.
yeah, we did. We did like a show on the stage, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we did.
We took our I don't know. We did some kind of a medley of stuff that we had done throughout the year. And it
Yeah.
was I don't know if it was lame or not.
I I am
We had
sure it was
fun.
not lame. It was so
Yeah.
fun. I just remember walking around in those like cruise costumes. Didn't we have like
Uh-huh.
sailor costumes?
Yeah, because we did shoot, now I can't remember it. It was our 70s, like it was a 70s theme that year.
Yes.
And so we did like a I can't even remember the song, but there was like royal blue and white,
Uh-huh.
like sailor tide
Yeah.
shirts.
That sounds a
Anyway,
little dorky, actually.
it was. Don't let my husband listen to
Oh
this
my
podcast.
gosh. Some of these things like you never think about and then they just come up in your memories when we're
Uh,
talking about it. It's so funny.
uh,
So yeah, after high school, Whit came up to college and we kind of lost touch for a few years. So we'll kind of go into how we got back in touch in a
yeah.
little bit. So why don't you kind of walk us through, how did you get started in fitness, that kind of thing?
Well, I probably uh, my first intro to it was I took Coach Kaiser's lifting class in high school.
Yes, I took that
And
as well. Yeah.
yeah. And so he was the very first place where I touched weights. I actually loved that class. Everybody
Me
loved him,
too.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. And then I joined a gym, like pretty much when I got to school. I either worked out on campus or 24-hour was my gym of choice
Yeah,
during
you
those
went there. I
years.
was a Gold's Gym girl, Ninth
Oh
East
yeah,
Gold's. Yeah.
yeah. I think the 24-hour had just like they just built it there and whatever.
Mm.
Anyway,
Hmm.
so I did that. Probably spent more of my time doing lots of group fitness classes, some lifting here and there, but I've always belonged to a gym ever since I was in college.
Yeah.
And I met my husband. We joined like a little kind of a rec gym near our
Hmm.
house. Started, kept going there. And then really after my first baby is when I think that's really kind of the timing of social media
Uh-huh.
getting bigger, and I started seeing more of that world versus just
Yes.
kind of what I knew I was doing.
Hmm.
And I started getting more serious about like fitness, and that's when I kind of brought me to you.
Yeah. So what was
Eventually,
happening?
after,
Yeah, you were
yeah,
working out at the gym, and like what led you to get a coach? Like you were frustrated a
yeah.
little bit.
I mean, I like after all of my babies, I felt like I did pretty well. Like I gained a lot of weight
Hmm.
during pretty much all of my pregnancies. I even gained a lot of weight with a baby born at 29 weeks.
Oh
I remember
yeah.
thinking, I remember thinking if I had gone full term, who knows what
Right.
this would have looked
Yeah,
like.
11 more
Anyways,
weeks.
but
When you say a
yeah.
lot of weight, what are you talking? Just so listeners know.
Like 40, 45 pounds. I mean, it just
Okay.
felt,
Yeah.
yeah, it was significant with that first baby. The third baby
Hmm.
wasn't nearly as much actually, but
You're not
I
talking like
did
80
pretty
pounds
well.
though.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot for me. And
Sure.
but I did a pretty good job of getting back to normal and losing weight after him. I didn't do anything specific because I've never one thing that is like some people, but unlike a lot of people too, is that I didn't grow up sort of with a ton of diet culture in my brain.
Hmm. Hmm.
Thankfully, like I'm so grateful for that. My parents were very pretty healthy, healthy bodies. They had a sense of health as much as we did in the 80s and 90s.
Can we
You know,
share what your mom and dad did for their jobs?
sure.
Like your dad is like a rock star,
Oh, well, I
and
mean,
he is. He's a rock star. I
he's
remember.
he was a sheriff for LA County, but
Yeah.
that was his first love
He
was
was in
music.
in a band, and I remember, didn't he play at the Claremont concert at the concerts in the park?
Yeah,
And we would
lots.
go and we'd have our KFC and
Yep.
we'd listen to the band play.
The
play.
best outdoor picnic ever,
Yes.
KFC. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he played in a band. Well, that's how he made a living for like until my brother was born. So for the
Hmm.
first like his whole life up until he
So
was like
cool.
30. And then he joined the sheriff's department in Los Angeles, and that's because he realized, oh, I guess I actually have to like take care of people now. So, but he played in a band like pretty much always, even through the time that he was a sheriff.
Uh-huh.
And
That's so
then
cool. And he still does.
he still does.
Well,
He
yeah.
still does.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah.
So, and then
Cool.
what
Oh,
were you
yeah.
thinking?
No,
My
just it's
mom?
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we share that?
What? The bunny?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, she wouldn't care. And this was just when
This
she
is
was
so
young.
funny.
This was
Yeah.
when she, like, almost right before she met my dad. She was a Playboy bunny at the Playboy Club in Los Angeles. And it's
I
just
think
funny
that is
because
so
that's
funny.
couldn't be further from what she is now. And it was basically a cocktail waitress. There wasn't any of the
Yeah. Nothing
whatever.
sexual. Yeah.
No, 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 no. But she did
So
have a super cute
awesome.
Playboy bunny costume. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's so when you said my parents were both healthy, that's where I went. Playboy bunny and rock
Yes.
star.
Oh, right, right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were
That's where
like
my mind went.
we ate whole wheat bread. At that time, we only did brown rice. Like, I mean, remember she didn't buy sugar cereal. Like it was very we definitely like I was aware of that. But I never had like problems with my weight as a child, thank goodness. I never
Mhm.
really thought of I was really oblivious to my body. In some ways not great, but in some ways it served me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
um, even when I had weight to lose. I studied in London in college, and I was in Europe for about 8 weeks. And something happened, the European air, atmosphere, food, but it did not agree with me. And I gained about 20 pounds
Mm.
when I was there. And
Mm-hmm.
but even when I came home, I was young. I went back to kind of my normal.
Yeah.
I didn't eat well while I was there, and I lost the weight. So losing weight was sort of like just out of necessity, just out of an abnormal gain with pregnancy, that
Mm-hmm.
travel.
Mm-hmm.
But it never really was like a major thing for me where I was like always felt like I should be on a diet or anything like that. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
have that experience, and that's it was good. But once I got to my third baby, I remember stepping on the scale when she was, I don't know, a few months old and thinking, oh, my weight is back to where I've seen it before, kind of my set point, my norm,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't look the same. Like
Mm.
I look different. Like things have shifted. The fat is different, or whatever it
Sure.
was. And that's around the time when I'd really started to see more social media
Mm-hmm.
kind of come up. And actually, that's probably where I was like, oh, there's Lindsay. Like, I haven't seen Lindsay in
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw you. And at that time, you were competing. So I'd seen
Hmm.
competition posts and I knew you were coaching. I remember making a couple recipes that you had posted, things
Hmm.
like that.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe this is what I want to do. And it was just more out of like, yeah, let's go. Like I knew I was done having kids.
Hmm.
I'd never really truly dieted before.
Hmm.
And so I'd started to teach myself about when my second son was born. I downloaded MyFitnessPal, and that was in like what, 2009? Like that
Hmm.
was forever ago. And I taught myself macros. I remember when I reached out to you, you said, do you want a meal plan or do you want macros? You were kind of doing a little bit of both
Yeah.
at the time.
Hmm.
And I was like, no way, I do not want a meal plan. I hate meal plan. I mean,
And
I
I was
didn't
like, yes, because I don't want to make one.
totally, totally. And I was never interested in following a meal plan, but I really loved the idea of tracking my macros. It was, and I still to this day think it's the absolute best, most sustainable way to, understand what nutrition is and what it needs to be for you. So,
Yeah.
so that's when I hired you, was just right after Sloan was born.
Yeah. And what were the goals? When you hired me, what was why did you do that? What was your goal?
My goal was fat loss.
Hmm.
And I knew that like I knew I had some muscle on me because I had
You
been
definitely do have some muscle on you. That's for sure.
and I wanted to like actually lean out and train the way that complemented both leaning out
Hmm.
and, kind of building or at least sustaining the physique that I kind of thought was there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
definitely
And
it was
so,
fat loss at the beginning.
right. And then you got leaner and leaner. And then what did I say to you one day?
You
Did I bring
said,
it up?
yes.
Okay.
You said you should compete. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
were
yeah.
you like,
I was like,
I don't really
no.
remember. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Your first response was no. Like,
right.
no
Well,
way.
I think actually probably when I hired you, I did the classic client.
Maybe.
No, I
Oh,
said
yes, I remember
I
this.
wanna look like I could compete, but not actually compete.
Yeah.
And
Why do
as
we
a
think that's the
coach,
worst thing ever now?
because it's not like you don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
like just live your life looking like you're ready to compete.
Yeah. Like you don't want to do that. That sounds
No,
miserable.
you don't. And but like it's very, I mean, on the other end, you just don't even know that. You just look at
Yes.
these people and think like, "Oh, they're competitors and they look like that all the time." And
Right.
so I just think now looking back at it, I'm thinking you're like, "Yeah, I've heard that a million times." Okay. So I guess I mean, even in thinking that though, I was pretty serious about
Mhm.
physique goals, right? Like
Yeah.
even if I didn't understand what I was saying at the
Yes,
time,
Whitney
I
was the
was
perfect client. If any of her clients are listening, just know that your coach was the perfect client.
well, thank you. I mean, I feel like when I have been a client, I have been a perfect client. And
Hmm.
when I say that, I just mean like I took everything that my coach said to the T. I communicated with them. I just did everything that I was told to do because otherwise, why was I working with
Yeah,
them, right?
totally.
And my headspace was in the right place. It worked. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
how
So
did you
you
go from
said
saying no to competing to placing second on a national stage? Let's talk about that.
because I don't know. So I started working with you, I think in like March, and then
Hmm.
I had done a diet phase and we started reversing close to the holidays.
Okay.
And I did really well during that reverse and I stayed really lean. And I think like you had started talking to me about it. I gotten to know Heather Dees and
What
she
year
was
was
like,
this? Do you remember?
this was 14.
Okay.
Yeah, because I competed in 15.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So 2014. And Heather, I remember at some point, Heather was like, you should compete. And then I
Hmm.
was like, okay, fine, I'll compete. And this was like
Yeah.
in January.
Okay.
And you were like, Heather can teach you to pose. Like, we can do it. We can. The show was in March, by the way.
Oh yeah, the
I
local show.
decided
That's
I was going to
right.
compete. Yeah, I decided I was going
Yeah.
to compete 8 weeks out.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
so
know,
funny.
which is
That is
not
so funny. Not
recommended in
normal,
general,
but you
but
were so lean that it worked out just
mhm.
fine.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and you had the muscle
So
there as well. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I started prepping for that show. It was a local show here in Salt Lake City. Um, I bought a used suit and it was beautiful and I just did everything again that Lindsay told me to do. And I I competed in that show as a novice, as a masters, because I was
Mm-hmm.
over 35 at the time, and you can, as an old, they consider you to be an old person at that
Yeah.
point.
So
So I
silly.
did open, masters, and novice,
Novice. Mm-hmm.
and I won all those classes. I won the overall. It was
She won
wild.
everything that she was able to win.
It was wild. It was so fun. And
So
we had so
fun.
many like friends and family there, and my husband made these silly t-shirts, and
Yeah.
it was fun.
What the shirt said, "Witness the fitness," right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that kind of stuck. That's like my handle for my social media and stuff too. So,
Yeah.
um, and then at that year you were competing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, and this was like a very naive novice thing to do, but I was like, I'll go to nationals when
Yeah.
probably,
Well, no, I
I don't
mean, you
know.
win everything at the local level. Of course, you're going to want to do that.
Sure. But so Lindsay was going to nationals in the fall of that year in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, yeah, I'll go. And so we both went together, and that was
Mm-hmm.
fun.
It was fun.
Our husbands came. Yeah, we ran around
And
Pittsburgh
I
and
remember thinking like, I hope they get along. Like you just never know,
oh
because
yeah.
they
No,
and now
yeah.
they're like besties. Yeah.
Hmm.
So funny.
Yeah. So yeah, did that show, did a couple more the next year. That's when I placed second the next year, and
Okay, yes.
it was good.
Yeah. And so then talk to me what happened after. So you had some repercussions from competing. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So that was 2016 that I did the two national shows. That last show I placed second. And
Mm-hmm.
then I thought, okay, I'll lay off because it was towards the end of the competition season. I'll get out of this, reverse for a while, and then we'll do another show next year in 2017. So when I started so after that, after the fall season of 2016, when I finished my competition season, slowly I for sure had lost my period, which is normal when you're super
Mm-hmm.
lean. That's what
Mm-hmm.
happens. But I started to have some symptoms over the winter that weren't great. I was really bad night sweats, like soaking my bed sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's like the main one that sticks out to me. I remember still like I was still training the same way. I was still eating the same way. Like I was not like thinking, oh, there's some red flags here. You should probably change something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's usually what you should do. But I wasn't
But
thinking that way.
you
I
weren't in an
felt
extreme deficit, right? You
no,
reversed
no,
out of
no.
it. Yeah. You
Yeah,
just
I
mean
was
eating super
definitely at
clean.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was definitely eating more, and probably I was probably in a surplus for
Mm-hmm.
sure, at least for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time. Not a major surplus, but
Yeah.
definitely a surplus. Um, so I'd started to have these symptoms, and it just didn't occur to me that like things were actually like not okay. Other than I started to gain weight. Well, that's not even true. I stayed lean because I started to prep for that show. So that's not true. I
That's
was
right. That's
having
right.
just these symptoms, the night
Mm-hmm.
sweats, on and on and on. And and I had my labs done, and I sent them to my coach, and I remember him saying, how are you even getting out of bed in the morning? Your thyroid's so bad. This is bad. This is bad. Like you shouldn't have any energy. And I was like, really? I don't know. I just got
Yeah.
out. So, and I was just doing what I was doing. So as I started to prep for this show, nothing was really changing. My body wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really responding in the way that I'd seen it before in previous
Mm-hmm.
preps. And we kept kind of pushing back my date. I think I was going to do like a June show, and that didn't, I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We ended up getting to about August, and that was the last show that I had really had my eyes on, and I just knew that it wasn't going to be a good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I pulled the plug on that one. And that was when we all went to San Diego with the Ideal
Yeah.
Fit team, and
Yep. Yep. So
it was
fun.
right around that time. Yeah. And then I that's when I had started to like the weight started to creep up,
Okay.
and I still hadn't really figured things out. I had had the labs, I knew what they looked like, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really change a lot. I actually did have a doctor put me on some progesterone because that was off, but
Mm-hmm.
that was I think about it. Anyway, it was a long, probably 18 months of struggle until I did something really similar to what Lindsay has done and has
Mm-hmm.
told, I think maybe not quite yet on the podcast. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just alluded to
But
it, not details.
yeah, so I learned more about what was going on. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
doing anything very like with a doctor necessarily. In fact, I even stopped taking the progesterone at some point because I felt like I was retaining a lot of water. I couldn't wear any
Mm-hmm.
of my wedding rings. It was crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we didn't we I kind of I started to slowly make some changes and to figure stuff
Yeah.
out. I don't did I am I going ahead too far?
No, no, you're perfect. Yeah. So what
Okay.
kind of changes did you make? Did you like with your food, workouts? What'd you do?
Yeah. So that next year, so that was 2017. The next year in the summer or the middle part of 2018, I hired a coach, a different coach, who I'd started doing a certification through N1 training.
Mm-hmm.
And I hired one of their coaches. And I figured, I mean, it was kind of like multifold. Like, I love as a coach learning from other coaches.
Yeah, yeah,
And
same.
I was doing the certification. I wanted to kind of work with somebody who that's that was their background.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first coach that was like, you got to stop. You got to cut
Yeah.
back. You're stressed, your body's a mess. Like, I remember sending them
Interesting.
my pictures, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the coaches was like, she needs to not train for like the next 4 weeks, which they didn't have me do. He had me rest for a
But
couple,
that was
but
his first thought.
oh yeah, just looking at my
Yeah.
pictures. He's like, you're
Interesting.
inflamed, and that by then I had put on probably about 20 pounds
Okay.
from that like super lean point.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he pulled my training back.
From what to
We
what?
I was probably training 6 days a week, and I think we were
Mm-hmm.
at about 4.
Okay.
It might have even been 3 for a short
Mm-hmm.
period of time, but I think it was settled out to be about 4.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't do any cardio. I did a very close to keto diet for probably 4 to 6 weeks
Mm-hmm.
early on, and then we started putting carbs back in around training. He helped me understand what my sleep situation was, why I was having those night sweats and
Yeah.
waking up at night and not going back to sleep. And he had me on some different supplements that I hadn't really taken. And it was very basic. It was like vitamin E, which is really
Right.
good for
Right. Nothing
like
crazy.
inflammation. No, no, no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, like theanine, which is a calming amino acid, like things
Mm-hmm.
that I just had never taken before.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one who introduced me to glutamine, and that really helped support my gut, like just
Mm-hmm.
really basic ones. But over time, so that was about 6 months, and things had probably started to improve. But then I started to learn more about what we did with Jason and our
Mm-hmm.
hormone protocol that we've helped clients with,
Yeah.
and I did that myself,
Mm-hmm.
kind of alongside with Lindsay when she was
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have a coach doing it with me, but
We just did it
I
together.
definitely, yeah, we just did it around the same
Mm-hmm.
time. But honestly, like it was just time, and time it with consistency with what I was doing, and just sticking to a protocol and a routine that
Mm-hmm.
over the course of, like, it was honestly 2 years that I slowly started to kind of come out of it. And the funny thing is it's probably about 2020 was when things started to improve.
Yeah.
When for a lot of people it all kind
It's
of
like the
went to
opposite.
hell.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like I started to feel better, my body started
Mm-hmm.
responding better. And then even then after that I was it was another like 18 months where I was like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm in a good body composition. I can maintain this. My
Yeah.
body's happy. So it was a long time. And it
Yeah.
probably could have been quicker had I maybe had a coach or somebody to guide me with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely could have um maybe, I don't know, it something would have been maybe a little bit different, but I was happy with
Mm-hmm.
how it worked out. And it made me really realize the benefit of like taking things low and slow,
Mm-hmm.
not being in a hurry. Like, I just didn't feel like that was kind of the answer. As quickly as all that had kind of changed, I just wasn't in the headspace to like crash myself and make things even worse. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's a great thing to know is how long it took. Like, how long do you think it took you to gain the weight? Not as long as it took you to lose it, right?
no, no, not even
Yeah.
close.
Few months, 6 months maybe,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
how?
yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
It
to
was
gain,
it Yep.
go ahead.
No, it
So
started like towards the end of 2017 and like to that mid part of 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe 6 months or so,
Yeah.
or 8 months to gain the 20 pounds, and then a couple years to figure that all out. One thing I remember about you when you were going through it, and maybe this is just me observing from an outsider, maybe this is not how you felt inside. I don't remember if we talked about it, but you didn't really seem that stressed about it. And
Mm.
maybe you were, but outwardly you didn't really seem, and I feel like that maybe that helped you because I mean, we see clients all the time that are just so stressed about their results that it just makes things worse. Talk on that. Am I totally off? Maybe I'm
Totally.
totally off.
No, I think you're on. I do think I felt more stressed inside than I
Sure.
expressed, and that's just
Yes.
kind of my personality.
Yeah.
I have a lot of work to do on maybe being more open. But but I think it helped. What it did help me do is to not sort of express it and to like have it be this. I didn't want it to be sort of everything that was consuming me.
Yeah.
Um, I had a job I loved. I have a family to take care of. Like there's all this other stuff going on. And
It's
yeah, I
good in
didn't
your
feel good
life.
at all. But
Right.
and I was significantly stressed about it inside in my own
Okay.
mind.
Okay.
But I didn't like I know what you mean. I can see exactly
Yeah.
why you observed that because it's true. I just it didn't feel like something I needed to like
Talk about all the
have.
time or complain
Yeah,
about
well
all the time.
and you would be the one that I would do it to because
Mm-hmm.
you understand it and
Yeah.
and it just didn't feel like it was something that would make anything better to
Sure.
like anyway, but probably that helped in some way to sort of mitigate that stress and to kind of manage it too.
Mm-hmm. Did
So,
you have issues with high stress? I don't remember if your cortisol was high or low or do you
hmm.
remember?
Yeah, I think my I think my cortisol was high for quite a while early
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yeah.
Um, it was part of all of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
what do you think would be like your main takeaways, things you learned? If you could tell your clients or listeners, like, these are my tips from what I've gone through. What would you say?
The main thing would be to just, no matter what your challenge is or even your goal, your objective is to be in it for the long game. We sometimes
Mm-hmm.
only look at like that, like achieving that goal as as the end point. Like that's when we're done, that's when we're finished. And it's just not. And I try to talk about this with my clients that when we um, when we want to be fit and we want to be healthy and we maybe have some physique goals that go along with it, that's a forever thing. That's not
Mm-hmm.
just 6 months or 9 months or 12
12
months.
weeks or yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Mm-hmm.
that. It's forever. And not that you're going to necessarily need to have somebody guiding you along the way the entire time, but
Sure.
the things that we find are the hardest are the things that we're going to have to learn to manage and to have be a part of our lives forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like as in, it's so hard to eat good. It's so hard to eat
Yeah.
well. Well, yeah, guess what? That's it. That's it. It's
Yeah.
hard.
That's not
It's
a
going to be
12
hard
week thing.
forever.
Right.
Yeah. So just like mindset is 100% of all of this. And that if you can get your mindset to a point where you're in it for the long game, you're always going to be successful, even if you have ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs, even if you have times where it's tougher than others. Um, kind of it's super cheesy to say, but when we commit to not quitting, you're not going to fail. You're
Yeah.
going to
I love
find
that.
success. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. And I don't even like the words like starting over because in my mind that's like you quit and you're starting over. Like, no, you're gonna have your ups and downs. You're gonna fall off
yeah.
track. You're gonna get back
Yep.
on track. It's not quitting, starting over, messing up, starting over.
Yep.
Like, I wish we could just get rid of all of that. It's
Yep.
like you should expect to fall off and then you get back on. And that's just part of the journey. It's no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, I when clients will say that to me all the time. They'll say, "I had a bad week," or "I had a bad week," and I'm starting over. And I said, "Nope, you're not starting over. You're just
Yeah.
getting back on the
Continuing.
path and
Yeah. Yeah.
continuing on."
Yeah.
And
No, I
it's
love
true.
that you call
And
them out
just
on
the
that.
way that we talk about it makes such a big difference in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the decisions and the actions that we take.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like using those words like starting over. I failed. I did this
Hmm.
or like internalizing that is a really
Yep,
big deal, I think. So
for sure. Yep.
awesome. Well, anything else? I know Whitney is our head coach. She has coaching spots open. If you'd like to work with her, just shoot me a DM on social media. She's also on social media as Witness Fitness, Witness underscore fitness. Is that right?
You're right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. On Instagram.
WHIT.
Okay, yes, WHIT. Yes, we'll put her handle in the show notes for sure. But anything
Okay.
else you want to share before we hop off?
Nope. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for being
All
on. That was
right.
so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
see ya. All right, guys, thank you for joining Whitney and I today. I hope you guys got something out of her journey and her takeaways. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you shared it, gave us a rating and review. All those things do help us get the podcast to more people. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys next week.